Welcome. My name is Stefan Korvers. I'll welcome you to the webinar on innovation procurement. And we are still waiting for some viewers to come in. We expect around a few hundred viewers, not only from Europe but also outside Europe. Of course, also from the UK. And also from the Asia Pacific rim. So we have a wide audience, and thank you for participating in this webinar on innovation procurement. Okay, we're going to start now. So, as said, welcome to the EAFIP edition of this webinar on innovation procurement and on the opportunities to boost the economic recovery. Before we go to the presentation, I would like to first give you an overview of the agenda. First, we have the honor that Mrs. Bos from the European Commission is giving you some insights on the latest developments and status on innovation procurement from a European perspective. After that, Mrs. Annabelle Pero will discuss the EAFIP assistance and the possibilities to line up with them. And then we go to the projects. The first project that we're going to discuss is the project from the Bank of Lithuania on blockchain. Mr. Adomainis is presenting his part from the viewpoint of the contracting authority, and his colleague with the same name, Mr. Adomainis from Tieto Evry, is going to shed his light in his viewpoint from the view of the supplier. Around 10:15, 11 after the project, we have the possibility to have some Q&A sessions. It's a small one for 10 minutes. And once that has been done, we have a technical break for a few minutes to give you the opportunity to get some coffee. And then we restart the session around 11:15. The second project is on the WBL, or from the Netherlands, on the water chain, starting with Mr. Leon Verhagen from the Water Board in Limburg, and will be followed up by Mr. Schenk from Royal Haskoning DRV, who's giving his view on the PCP in this scheme. After the Q&A session, we will continue with our third presentation. And that is of the city of Dublin, starting with Nicola Graham, and after that we will ask the director of Semicon to give his presentation on that part. After the Q&A session, we have a closure, and we also have a possibility to have some Q&A session and that we would like to address. Before we do that, I think it's wise that we give you first some house rules. What is important is that the list of participants will not be disseminated. That is not possible. The webinar will be recorded. And will be made available afterwards on our website of EAFIP, and of course we will send you the link to that within a few days after our webinar. If you would like to ask questions, that's also possible. You can use the private chat in that. We will pick some questions and try to answer them. But anyhow, what we will do is that we will collect all the questions and set up a Q&A document, which we also will send you a link to for the answers to that in a few days after the webinar. We're using a Webinar Geek as a technical platform. In case that we face some real strange issues, well, you never know. We will not restart the webinar, but the webinar will be stopped. And we will record it in a later phase, and we send you the link to that. Fortunately, that has never happened before, but, well, you never know. Before I pass the floor to Mrs. Liever-Bas, I also would like to give you the possibility to answer a poll. And this is the poll. It's about, we would like to know if you already have been involved in an innovation procurement project and are starting now. So you can answer that. It will be interesting to understand how many of the participants have been involved in innovation procurement. So that can be a PCP, that can be a PPI. In the examples that we're giving today, we have examples from Lithuania on a PCP and also from Limburg on a PCP, and we have the example of the city of Dublin of a PPI. Interesting part is that what you will see is that both WBL and also the city of Dublin have set up complete programs in which innovation procurement plays a vital part of it. So you will learn about the challenges and the advantages of innovation procurement. I think that's also important that you will learn from it. And if you still have any questions, you can ask them in the chat or afterwards to the EAFIP experts. So we're almost there. We have 10 seconds to go, and it seems that the majority has never been involved in an innovation procurement project. So I think that's a good starting point for today. So I hope that you can learn a lot. And I think that we can go now and switch to the presentation again. Lieve, I would like to pass the floor to you if that's okay.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I'm Liever-Bas. I work in the Digital Innovation and Blockchain Unit in the European Commission. And from this point of view, we are, of course, eager to support innovation procurement because it's very important for the digital sector and for the digital transformation of the public sector in general. Of course, today we are all faced with how are we going to get out of this economic problematic situation after the corona crisis? How are we going to boost economic recovery? And this is exactly where innovation procurement can play a big role, because it can not only modernize the public sector itself, make it more efficient, make it more effective in delivering its services to the citizens, but it can also open new business opportunities for companies to grow. So let's look at the next slide, where we are on innovation procurement in Europe compared to the rest of the world. We recently finished a benchmarking study that checked this situation. If you see in the middle, you see other regions of the world, like the United States, that are spending around 20% of their total public procurement budget per year on innovation. The largest part of that goes to adoption of innovative solutions, the so-called procurements of innovative solutions, sometimes also abbreviated as PPI procurements. But there is also a significant part, 3% of their annual 20% budget that goes to innovation, that is spent on procurements that do not adopt any solution yet, but are just buying research and development to get new solutions tested, compared, in order to tackle challenges that are further ahead, 5 to 10 years ahead, to be prepared for upcoming new unforeseen situations or challenges that we are not facing yet today, but we need to get ready for. If you look at the left, you see one of the most advanced countries on innovation procurement in Asia, South Korea, spending even more effort on innovation procurement, more ambitious targets even, both for deployment of innovative solutions and for procurements that focus on R&D. And on the right-hand side, you see Europe. And here, our study confirm that we are still having quite a bit of work to do in Europe. Around 10% of public procurement was found to be spent on innovation. Most of it going to adoption of innovative solutions and only a tiny part going to R&D procurements. And why is this important for economic recovery for Europe? Because Europe depends more than these other parts of the world on public procurement, on the public sector, to drive forward its economy. The part of public procurement in the generation of GDP every year is bigger in Europe than in other parts of the world. So to get out of the economic crisis quickly, we should use innovation procurement much more intensively. So if we look at the next slide, this is showing then the opportunities. Why should we do it? What's in it for us on the demand side as policymakers, as procurers, but also for companies who are eager to deliver, of course, innovative solutions to the market. Well, of course, for policymakers, the main objective is to modernize public services, but also to improve the entire innovation ecosystem by attracting, for example, investors, by delivering higher quality jobs to citizens. You know, innovative jobs are often jobs working with new technologies, high quality jobs that are the future for employees. Suppliers, of course, can benefit from innovation procurement by shortening their time to market, working together with the customers to bring solutions to the market, makes it all go a bit quicker than doing it all on your own. Creating bigger economies of scale by selling to a larger group of customers, and sharing the risk and benefits of creating innovations with the demand side. The procurers, the buyers, of course, they want better solutions, higher quality, lower price, more interoperable, less supplier lock-in. All these practical considerations that procurers have can be solved with innovation procurement, because you can tune your innovation procurement completely, shape it to meet your needs. So let's have a look at the next slide. Here we see what is the EU now doing on innovation procurement and where should we focus on. We are starting this year the new financial cycle of the European Union, 2021-2027, where a huge amount of budget has been put aside for economic recovery, of course, 1,800 billion euros to be precise. And a large part of that is focused on modernization on public sector in all its forms. Public sector, not just meaning public administrations, cities, regions, countries, but also the health sector, the environmental sector, the energy sector, the transport sector, the construction sector, security sector. Anybody who is delivering a public service or addressing a societal challenge for citizens, for businesses, can benefit from this and can use innovation procurement. Not just to modernize the public sector itself, like we already said, but to address, for example, the biggest challenge ahead in economic recovery. The two main drivers of economic recovery will be green and digital transition. So these are the focus points in the recovery plan. Half of the budget needs to go to these objectives. So there will be lots of attention to this, lots of opportunities for investment. Where are we today, or where should we with innovation procurement? We mentioned we are spending around 10% of public procurement budgets around Europe on innovation procurement, and we should be around 20% to have enough early adopter customers for innovative solutions, so that afterwards they will be adopted by the mass market quickly enough. You see on the picture there at the bottom that some European countries are already quite ahead of others, are spending around 14% of their procurement budget already on innovation, but others completely on the right are spending 6 to 7 times less. And this is a big issue because it means their economy will pick up slower. If we go to the next slide, we see what's the situation for digital solutions. We mentioned digital will be one of the big drivers of economic recovery. Why is that? Because it generates an enormous amount of productivity growth, because it enables to work more efficiently, to deliver higher quality services, to go digital instead of doing everything non-digital. And those countries who adopt ICTs quickest also have the fastest economic growth around the world. These two are tightly linked, and those also have more efficient and more effective public sectors, and companies in those areas find customers quicker and grow faster. So innovation procurement in the digital sector is very important for economic recovery. But where are we on this today, and what should we focus on to improve the situation? So if we only look at those public procurements that are invested on innovative digital solutions, we see that some countries, advanced countries on the left of the graph, are already pretty close to what should be the target to have enough early adopter customers. But those on the right of the graph are spending more than 10 times less, a much smaller portion of their national procurement budget, on adopting innovative solutions and on driving the new development of innovative digital solutions. So there, a lot of effort is still needed to drive forward economic recovery. The gap in ICT innovation is larger than in innovation in general. There seems to be a slower uptake of ICTs, innovative ICTs, but the gap in R&D procurement, so procuring development of new innovative solutions, digital solutions, is even bigger. There we are spending 5 times less than what we should to be able to compete with other parts of the world at the same pace. If we go to the next slide, we can see now in practice what is happening with the new European funding program starting. We will have several European programs that spend more emphasis on supporting innovation procurement, not only the recovery and the resilience facility, this fund in the middle, but also several other programs, European programs around it, the Horizon program for research and innovation, but also the digital program, Digital Europe and Connecting Europe facility, are focusing completely on deployment of ICT solutions. The structural funds programs for regional development also offer a huge opportunity for starting innovation procurements in your specific region on your own priority topics. There is also an innovation fund for green topics that supports innovative procurements, and the new defense program also supports innovation procurements, including those focusing on R&D. So there are lots of opportunities at European level, but also at national level. Let's have a look at the next slide, which shows a bit what we are now discussing today. So over the past few years, the Commission has started several initiatives, not just big European programs that are doing big European projects on innovation procurement, but also other initiatives that are supporting innovation procurement more at national and local level. And one of them is the European Assistance for Innovation Procurement. We have set this up in 2014 to support individual procurers that don't want to go into, per se, into a big European project, but just want to do an innovation procurement themselves in their own country with their own budget, and they just need some help to get this started. And this is why we're having today this workshop, to start the new series of innovation procurement support from the EAFIP initiative, and to give you also some idea of what previous projects in this area have already achieved, so that you can learn from them. Thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoyed today, you learn a lot, and you get inspired to apply also for assistance from the EAFIP initiative.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Bas. We now go to Mr. Annabel Pera
Okay. Yes, I am unmuted. Thank you very much. So now I will explain you a bit what the new EAFIP edition is and what can the EAFIP initiative do for you. So the European Assistance for Innovation Procurement is an initiative that aims to support public buyers when they are implementing innovation procurement projects, as Mrs. Liebebos was saying. And also, as he was mentioning, we are now in the 3rd edition. So by now, we have been gathering all the best practices on innovation procurement, in particular in the ICT solutions field. Who can benefit from EAFIP? So I already hinted this a bit. EAFIP wants to support public buyers when they are implementing innovation procurement. So public buyers from European member states are eligible to apply for assistance. If you are interested in that, we will also see that in an upcoming slide. You have to fill in a survey. And in this survey, we will ask you a series of questions in order to evaluate your project against 4 selection criteria, which are here. So we are really interested to know how big the commitment to start your PCP, your PPI project is. And here, for example, the maturity of the business case plays an important role. We also want to know the potential impact of your innovation procurement project. So we really also want to foster ICT solutions that are aligned with the European Green Deal objectives and, if possible, that are also in the framework of a national digital or ICT strategy. As mentioned, we are in the 3rd edition. So this means that several public buyers from different European member states have already been supported. And now what we want to do, of course, is keep supporting everyone, but we are also focusing on countries who haven't been supported yet. That's interesting for us because, and this is linked to the 4th selection criteria, we want to extend innovation procurement. We want to encourage public buyers who haven't dared to start their innovation procurement projects to start with that. So that's why the lack of experience is also checked in the survey that you have to submit. The message that we want to give you throughout this whole presentation is that please don't wait, start innovating, because innovation can really tackle, it's a really great way to solve problems, to tackle different issues in a really efficient way, as you will see in the cases that we are going to see this morning. Okay, so now we know what the EAFIP assistance is, who can benefit from it. We need to know what the actual support is. And of course, the support is linked to the assistance to public buyers in preparing and implementing their innovation procurement project, which means that in all the preparatory steps and in the implementation of your project, you can receive this assistance. If you need to define your needs because you cannot define or assess your needs, EAFIP can support you there. You need to conduct a state-of-the-art analysis. EAFIP can also support you there. Or you have already completed this, but you haven't conducted an open market consultation. Ask for support because EAFIP can also do that. Drafting legal documents, reviewing the legal documents, everything you need to start your innovation procurement project and to actually implement it, you can have the expert assistance of the EAFIP initiative. And very important and linked to this, the EAFIP initiative is based on the EAFIP methodology, which are 5 preparatory steps that increase the success rate of your innovation procurement. These 5 steps are the needs identification and assessment, the prior art analysis and IPR search, the analysis of the standards landscape, the open market consultation, and the value calculations. In all these preparatory steps, you can receive the EAFIP support. So if you have any questions here, submit the survey and we will try to support you. We will assess your case and we will support you. But of course, here I am mentioning the preparatory steps. We all know that the work is not finished with the preparatory steps. We really need to implement our procurement procedure. Once we have gathered all the information from the preparatory steps, we need to define our procurement strategy. So, for example, now that we have all the information, we know that the technology readiness level of the solution is lower. Then we can justify a pre-commercial procurement. But if the technology readiness level of the solution is 9, for example, we will justify a PPI. And then we have to decide which procurement procedure is the best for your particular case. An open procedure, a restricted procedure, a negotiated procedure, competitive dialogue. We will have to see based on the information we have and what you want to achieve. We have all this information now. We need to award the contract. We need to draft the tendering documents. You can also be supported there. monitoring the contract once the contract is awarded. We are dealing with innovation procurement, which means that, of course, as in all procurement, deadlines have to be complied with, but there are deliverables and milestones to be complied with, and we need to keep on monitoring that. And once the contract is finished, innovation procurement doesn't finish there, because in general, for example, we are talking about innovative things. So it might be that your solution, to your solution, there aren't standards that apply. So we might need to engage in standardization activities, and standardization activities don't finish with the contract. You need to keep engaging on standardization activities, and we need to make sure that we follow that up. Or intellectual property rights. We are dealing with innovation here, so it's quite likely that foreground IPRs will arise. We need to monitor that. We need to ensure that the contractor is implementing these IPRs, is protecting these IPRs. This is post-contract management, also really important. And of course, once this is over, we need to sit down and with calm evaluate what we have learned from the procedure. Meaning, what have we done right? Okay, great. Let's do that again when we do another innovation procurement project. But what could be improved? Okay, let's take note, and then we don't do the same thing next time. We make it better. Please, please, please don't forget to enjoy the process. Innovation procurement is challenging, but challenges are exciting. And seriously, in innovation procurement, it's really an interesting thing. You always learn something new. So please innovate, start your innovation procurement, and if you need assistance, ask for it. What is under the scope of the EAFIP assistance? Well, of course, I have already hinted at, so it's pretty clear that depending on your particular case, and of course, in accordance with the European Commission services, the type of assistance will be decided, but it will be based on your particular case and your particular needs. As I was saying, if you haven't conducted a state-of-the-art analysis, we can support you there. If you haven't drafted your business case, we can support you there. It depends on your particular case. This is also very important. Even if you don't apply for the assistance, highly recommendable to check the EAFIP website, because you can download completely for free the EAFIP toolkit, which is a toolkit in 3 different modules addressed to different stakeholders. So the policymakers, public buyers, legal services, and it really gathers best practices, tips and tricks, cases, documentation. So it's really useful in order to really understand innovation procurement, its 2 modalities, so PCP and PPI, and how to implement it, best tips and tricks. Really recommendable. And while you're at it, you can always check all the videos that we have about previous cases. So here you can see success stories. And also very important, if you go to the website and you go to the tab events, you will find previous webinars that have already been recorded, really recommendable. There is in particular one on how to tackle the COVID crisis with innovation procurement. That is really interesting. There you will find also all the upcoming events, because this workshop is the first one of a series of workshops and webinars in the 3rd EAFIP edition. So if you go there, you will find all the upcoming events, and you can also register for them. So now we know who can benefit, selection criteria, and the scope of the EAFIP assistance. We need to know what is outside the scope. So first things first, projects that are already receiving European funding for the preparation and management of an innovation procurement. So basically what we are trying to do here is avoid double financing. If you have a project that already covers the assistance that EAFIP can cover, you cannot ask for the EAFIP assistance. Also, EAFIP doesn't cover defense procurement. So if your procurement procedure is under the Directive 2009/1881 EC, then you cannot apply for the EAFIP assistance. As we have been hinting already a lot, EAFIP is intending to support public buyers when implementing innovation procurement procedures. So basically, when you are going to start a procurement procedure, EAFIP is not intended to support you if you are preparing a proposal or an offer for Horizon Europe calls. Important. And last but not least, EAFIP is expert assistance, not financial assistance. So you get expert assistance in order to implement your procurement procedure. And if your projects get selected, what you get is 5 main days expert assistance. And here, just bear in mind, you don't have to book a week for us to support you. No, the assistance is done on a needs basis. So imagine that one day we have a meeting because we need to explain something to the suppliers about how the procedure is going to be. Or we have another day a 2-hour meeting to decide the questionnaire for the open market consultations. Those hours will be discounted on the total 5 man-days. And also, in the website that I mentioned before, you can check the network of of lawyers of the EAFIP initiative, meaning that if needed, the support from the EAFIP can be provided in the local languages because we have lawyers in each of the member states to support you. The last important point is that we are going to open EAFIP calls every 3 months. As you can see here, we are now in the first call, so that means that you still have 3 more to apply to. But if you're interested in it, it's still open, and we highly recommend you to do that if you have an innovation procurement project, of course. So you will click here. This is also in the website. So if you go to the EAFIP website, it's the first web you see. It's the first tab you see. You click there and you will be taken to EU Survey tool, and that's a tool from the European Commission. You will be asked some questions that you just answer so that we can evaluate your case, and then with the European Commission, with the services of the European Commission, decide whether your case can be supported, and we will be more than happy to support you. So please, if you have an innovation procurement project in mind, feel free to ask for support. We will be more than happy to support you because we really like a good innovative challenge. So, and this is all on my side. Of course, if you have questions on the EAFIP initiative or anything, feel free to ask in the chat and we will be answering them. Thank you very much.
Okay, Annabelle, thank you very much. We now go to the presentation from Lithuania. Mr. Adamonis, may I ask you to take it over?
Hello. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Andrius Adamonis, working at the Bank of Lithuania, and I'm working as a project manager of LB Chain, commercial procurement of LB Chain. And we have past 3 years very interesting journey. It was the very first commercial procurement project for the Bank of Lithuania. We managed to implement it successfully, and today I will share the results, the lessons what we learned, and what is that LB Chain, what is the product that was created. So, what is the LB Chain? So, LB Chain is a technological and regulatory sandbox. In that sandbox, we will have fintechs working on their products, as well as we will have maybe some Bank of Lithuania use cases. In that sandbox, we will have Bank of Lithuania regulatory support and platform provider IT support. We will provide some non-sensitive data, test users, and this sandbox is very relevant for fintech startups, maybe some RegTech companies, IT companies, and so on. So the benefits of LB Chain, and this is the goals of what we achieved. So it's accelerated development of and application of blockchain-based solutions in the financial sector. So this is the benefit for startups that they can come with an early phase idea. We help them, we advise them how to develop the idea that this product would meet the regulatory requirements and meet all the blockchain technological requirements. And then we are working like part of accelerator, and as well as we are improving quality of regulation in the financial sector, because from the idea, from the early phase idea, we see the problems, we see where some uncertainties in regulation occurs, and we may adopt the financial market regulation to be able to accept such a type of ideas, or we will see very huge risk of such a type of ideas, and we can ban them and say that no, we cannot regulate this because it's too risky for Lithuanian and European citizens. So we managed to achieve this goal, and some of these goals they are continuous because we are still improving regulatory requirements every day. So because we are a government body, we chose to implement this through pre-commercial procurement because in the early days of LB chain we had only idea. We had a hypothesis-based idea. We did not have strict requirements for how to implement such a type of sandbox. And for public procurement, we need to have the requirements. We need to have prepared technical specification and other documents. So pre-commercial procurement helped us to solve this. So we implemented traditional scheme of pre-commercial procurement, where in first phase we had 4 suppliers, then 3 suppliers, and finished with 2 best suppliers. Best results showed suppliers. So in first phase we got solution exploration, where we got worldwide research, what type of sandboxes are operating not only in the European Union but also in other regions. Later in the second phase, we created 3 prototypes that was tested with startups. I will name them in my next slide. And in the third phase, we had a limited volume product developed and also tested with startups. And now we are in the migration phase from proof of concept, from the third phase to public procurement. And we are a little bit extending the scope that was tested in third phase. We are thinking of adding not only fintech cases, but maybe regtech cases, as well as probably to green finance some cases. And we are now a little bit developing the idea further. The startups that tested our LB chain or sandbox in the phase 2 was also gathered from all over Europe. We had few earlier startups like Sonero crowdfunding platform providers. We had more mature companies like OnData FA Solutions that already has the product developed and they are providing their services. And then they see that blockchain is coming and it might disrupt their business, so they need to be in line and they need advices from regulators as well as technical advices from platform providers to understand how blockchain can help them to develop their business. We had fintech, factoring services provider, payments, few payment providers. So we got various different use cases that shows that LB chain is capable to cover not only payments but various different use cases, and then we are not limiting to only one sector of the financial services. In the first phase, we got a smaller amount of startups, but we had more variety in that startups, and we had regtech solution provider where we tested transaction reporting. That is a very relevant use case for Bank of Lithuania, and so we get bearing point. As I mentioned, the sustainability is on top of all the companies and government organizations agenda. So we got Earthbank, where we tested green finance, and then we have various different startups from even one from Far East, from China. So LB chain is not limited in the one region, and it might help to attract investments and startups from other regions like United States or Asia. So the timeline that we implemented LB chain took more than 2 years with all the preparation, and then because we are funded from European structural funds through national competence authority, we took maybe 3 years because the procedures to get funding took very long. So we started on 2018 March. We finished first phase in December of 2018, when the whole project was finished on 2020 May. So we had a long journey, but we had some also extensions in the project, because when the project has a lot of uncertainties, so we found out that we need to extend some phases, and when we are tracking the startups, it also took longer than we expected. So the timeline may vary a little bit during such a type of projects like commercial procurement. Findings, what we found. So first of all, about the platform itself. So the platform is made from two parts. So first part is web application, where we say the service part, provide regulatory self-checks, blockchain wizards, prototyping tools, communication channels, and other things that are not in technological layer. And we have two different blockchain platforms to support various different use cases, and maybe in the future we will be able to accept more platforms, blockchain, or maybe not only blockchain. So Hyperledger Fabric and EAFIP Webinar. And we put LB Chain into our sandbox, not into before our sandbox. So we have regulatory sandbox, the traditional sandbox, that the concept of regulatory sandbox was proposed by FSA, Financial Conduct Authority from the UK. So in that sandbox, in the traditional regulatory sandbox, we are accepting companies that are more mature. They have products in pre-production or MVP phase. That product must be ready for public testing, and they will receive regulatory support. They will have impunity in some cases if regulatory regime is not in place, and we are working with them testing regulatory requirements. In LB Chain, as I said, we are receiving the idea phase startups, or very early phase prototypes, where we help to develop the idea that will meet the requirements of regulatory requirements from the beginning of the development of the product. So we have non-public testing, so we have controlled environment. We have not only regulatory support, but also technological support. And after the LB Chain fintechs are prepared to move to the regulatory sandbox or apply for a license. Yes, and now lessons learned. So there are a few types of lessons that we learned. So first type of commercial procurement. So splitting R&D in phases helped a lot for us for further investment. So if we see that product is not viable and it's not relevant, or there are some other problems with this, we can stop the project after first or second phase and do not invest into full development of the product. That is not with traditional public procurements. And when we have few suppliers competing between each other, we ensure the best price and the result. How to say that we'll get best result for the best price, and that was we managed to do. So we got a lot of very high quality results in our project. Yeah, so we found that the biggest value for the startups is that regulatory advisory, that the regulators working with them from the beginning of the idea. Additional tools for startups is also bringing value for them to evaluate viability of their idea to the regulatory regime, and controlled and isolated environment ensures that product are available for limited users. So this is how we mitigate the risk for for doing damage for the citizens of Lithuania. So basically, this is my last slide. So thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, so you can leave in the chat and I will answer it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Amdomis, thank you very much for this presentation. Exciting news about this area on the financial sector of fintech and startups and companies that will be the future for Europe, as I've understood, one of the future pillars. And it seems that Lithuania is really taking the lead in this. So this is really interesting to understand that. Perhaps you can go now to the presentation of your colleague from EAFIP. Mr. Adomis, may I give you the floor, please?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you see my presentation? Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. So, yeah, I'm Andrius Adamonis from EAFIP. I will present the same project, LB Chain project, from the eyes of the supplier. We were one of the suppliers who went through all 3 stages in this project, from the concept through prototyping and to the implementation of the tools for the LB Chain platform service. So I will shortly recap on the objective of the project, what we have delivered, and then quickly touch base on the benefits that we as supplier have received. Okay, so quickly, LB Chain project goal, as we formulated it, is to establish a platform and a service for fintech startups to receive regulatory and technical consultations on their solutions on blockchain. So basically, the focus is here on both regulatory and technical consultations. And what we found during our study phase, that actually most of the fintechs which start this journey in blockchain solutions, they, especially in fintech area, they actually lack and they are looking for regulatory consultations. So our objective was to establish this platform as a communication platform between the regulator and those potential participants of the platform who would receive those regulatory consultations. The target client of the service is companies in their early stage. So basically, when discussing with the Bank of Lithuania, we identified that companies which already have solutions, they are more eligible for different service by the Bank of Lithuania, which is regulatory sandbox, and then they are welcome to go to regulatory sandbox and test their business models there. But the very young companies which are still working on their idea and which are not yet sure about how this idea would fly, then they would be candidates to join this service or this let's say this platform, and then build their prototypes and have discussions on their business model and solution with the Bank of Lithuania from the very beginning. So basically, our focus was on bringing value to the participants, so they get real value out of participating in this journey. Then the platform should be flexible and adaptable, so all participants can flexibly interact and go through the best way suitable for their solution. And also cost effectiveness. So this platform is not something huge, but rather pragmatic and would be bearable for the Bank of Lithuania from cost perspective. how we did that, we went through those 4 main stages. So basically, we had to define this concept of platform service, sort of what is the content of it, regulations, and all this interaction. Then we built customer journey and tested it together with a number of participants who joined in second and third stages of the project. Then we, of course, had to develop and build this platform itself. I will show in the next slide. And then we tested that on real-life fintech blockchain use cases together with those participants that were selected in the project. From delivery point of view, actually, what we have delivered as a material result is you can see that 3 major things. So first of all, we have built a Corda-based, distributed ledger technology-based network, which is scalable, and we are able to operate it in a cloud and provision as many networks as required for the participants who join this service. So basically, participants get Corda network out of the box. They don't need to bother about installations, about fine-tuning infrastructure, fine-tuning Corda ledger nodes, etc. So basically, they get working network immediately. Of course, it is a private network, and that was a deliberate decision, so they can work on their solutions in private without, let's say, risking to leak their solutions to the public before they are built. Then another deliverable is management console. We call it management console, but rather it is a collaboration platform where participants can join, can have conversation via chat with the Bank of Lithuania. Sorry, I think I have. I'm on the wrong slide, right? I'm seeing different picture on my screen and your screen. Okay, so 4 steps once again that we went through: define service, test customer journey, develop, and then deploy real life use cases. Then the next, this is the material delivery that we have delivered. So Corda network, as you can see. We have delivered Corda network with a working environment for the participants. Then management console, that is a collaboration environment for the participants where they can communicate with the Bank of Lithuania experts and get consultations. All this correspondence is retained in the project, so Bank of Lithuania specialists, they can use this knowledge in the future projects with other participants. And then as an extra delivery, we also did some internal R&D on Corda solution, and we have built prototyping tool, which is let's say a Corda application which implements some parameterizable solution for the accounting ledger, and which allows participants to build some prototype solutions without having Corda development knowledge at all. Basically, they can build their solution and build their user flows without writing Corda applications at all. They can do that via configurations in the user interface in this prototyping tool. Probably it would not solve all possible scenarios that we can imagine that fintech companies would try to solve, but at least it would allow some limited experimentation before participant starts hiring, I would say, rather expensive blockchain developers. Okay, then we have tested all this with 5 companies, and Andrews have shared a full list of participants.
So it seems that Mr. Adomis has had some technical difficulties. He's trying to reconnect as we speak. And that's a shame because he's going to the end of his presentation. And he's back again. Mr. Adomis?
Sorry.
No?
Yeah, okay. Is my connection back? Okay. Good.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically we got feedback from different of companies of different maturity, and that was also very valuable feedback both for us as a supplier and also to the Bank of Lithuania, what participants expected and what participants are able to contribute in this type of service, so to say. Our takeaways. So I would say that probably we as a supplier, I would say that was, first of all, to me as a participant of the project, that was a very interesting journey to work together with the Bank of Lithuania and construct a completely new service or completely new activity as such, because that was an idea to have this regulatory consultations plus collaboration with the participants. So that was not a typical information technology project, but rather creating all the interaction with the participants, creating and kind of deciding what would be the things which would bring value for those candidates who will participate in the things. So from that perspective, that was a very interesting project. On the other hand, we also, as a company, we have gained quite a lot of competence in blockchain technology. So, of course, we can use it in our, and we are using it in our next projects as well. And also, we managed to build those deliverables, which also helped us to understand blockchain from very technical perspective, how it should be built and operated. From from participants' point of view, we also had quite a lot of interactions with the participants from those 5 companies, and actually we were able to collect their feedback as well, and we managed to look into their challenges when those small companies are building solutions in an innovative area, and basically we could learn from them and understand their needs better and share that with the Bank of Lithuania as well. And of course, probably this PCP approach or pre-commercial procurement also allowed us to get paid for this. So this was not something, investment that is done from Tieto Evry as a commercial company, but that was also covered in most part by the European Union funds, which meant that we can that we did not have to limit ourselves in what we are building. Basically, we can have this flexibility throughout the project when discussing what needs to be implemented, what needs to be done, and we did not. We should not limit ourselves in those decisions, trying to squeeze the scope to absolute minimum. So basically, we could work quite flexibly on the deliverables to the Bank of Lithuania. So that is it. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, Mr. Adomi, thank you very much. I just have one question for you before we go to the Q&A session. It seems that what you were telling is about a sort of new relationship that you have set up as a result of participating in the PCP with the Bank of Lithuania. Is that correct? You feel that there's is an increased possibility to have a sort of partnership with the Bank of Lithuania in understanding what they want, how you could help them, how you could support them, of course, based on your know-how and expertise.
Yes, basically the project itself, actually, we proposed, and I would say that we quite successfully used a Tieto's own co-creation model, co-creation method, which means that basically we used to have workshops and meetings together with the working group from the Bank of Lithuania, and we created the solution together with them. So on one hand, and then of course now this service, which is as it is defined now, basically it can be run by the Bank of Lithuania with a support from a vendor, so including from Tieto, which means that Bank of Lithuania would contribute to this service by providing regulatory consultations and project management with the participants who would join those rounds or consultation tracks. And we as a vendor would be providing technical consultations in the realm of blockchain and how to build blockchain solutions in this service.
And last question from my side, do you also think that now with this PCP project of the Bank of Lithuania, it's also giving you the possibilities to engage for other similar, perhaps more PPI projects in other member states from other central banks? Or do you think that the Bank of Lithuania is really one of the forerunners in, perhaps even Europe? I don't know.
Is it Andrews better to answer this?
Well, first from your viewpoint as a Tieto, because we're also interested to understand if the PCP is helping you as a company, as a technology vendor, to broaden your the market.
From that sense, yes, I mean that probably that commercial aspect is the most important here. That basically, commercial companies, they are limited in their abilities to invest on their own. So basically, this PCP helped us to get paid for the service that we provided to the Bank of Lithuania. So basically that was covered. On the other hand, I would say that this 3 stages approach, when vendors are evaluated after each stage, and then the best solutions are selected for the next stage, actually this did not allow us to, let's say, fell asleep, and we felt the challenge from competitors throughout all the 3 stages, and we wanted to excel and be the best in each of the stages, and that also adds to the quality of the result, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Domis from the Bank of Lithuania, perhaps you could also say something on that from your side. You're still muted, I think.
Yes. So from our side, it also helped us to clarify the idea, what we need to achieve. How to say, put everything on the table, provide a qualified solution explanation. What we were not managed to implement by our internal resources, because we have focused our resources into providing financial regulation services to the market, and this is like a side effect. So it was very valuable for us, very valuable experience. From our procurement side, also it was first time, so we gained a lot of experience how to write a funding and how to go through funding procedures for all the evaluation and so on. So it was also when we were working together with such companies like Tieto, and then other suppliers of LB chain. So we gained a lot of experience in a blockchain from our side. Personally, myself working together with these companies. So we raised our experience on the technological level as well as in the procurement. Yeah, managing all how to say 4 products in the beginning, it was also challenging, and in the beginning for us, because we need to provide the same expertise to all 4 suppliers to get in line with them, and how to say, ensure that not all the suppliers move to the completely different directions, because then we will be complicating our evaluation procedures. So it was a lot of challenges and a lot of new experiences for us. Currently, we do not have any commercial procurement on our agenda, but because we do not have such a new, how to say, global innovations that was not implemented, we are innovating, but not in such a scale. But if we will have any idea that could fit the commercial procurement requirements, so probably we will implement it again.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. I think it's time that we go to the chat. If there are any questions raised, let me see if I see some questions here. Oh yes, the first question to you, Ms. Amon, is for. I would like to know how many people were involved in the project on behalf of the Bank of Lithuania, and also looking at it from the discipline as a functional perspective. How many disciplines were involved in that? Can you say something about that?
Yes, so people I can try to count. We have one public procurement expert. We have 2 project managers. So myself, I was project manager, and I have a consultant, external consultant, helping to cope with all the work. We had lawyer. We had one blockchain specialist from more IT side, and we have regulatory specialists on demand. So we usually, according to the use case we have, so it's from 2 to 3 persons. So basically, we have 5 persons working on it, not full time. It's about 3 full times to combining all together, and we had from 2 to 3 regulatory experts joining consultations for the fintechs.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. I have another question that is more related to, okay, for Mrs. Bos. So I'll go to you. And what is the question? What is the ideal instrument to spend the funds of the recovery fund in a short time horizon? Is innovation compatible with spending times few years? So it's more about the actual funding of the recovery funds. Can you say something about that, Mrs. Bos?
Yeah, the recovery funds, they will be spent over a number of years. Of course, everybody wants to start generating economic recovery as soon as possible, and some areas need immediate investment. Some areas need to tackle challenges which will require more time. But in any case, an innovation procurement can be implemented in a very short time frame or in a longer time frame. It usually depends on how complicated the challenge is that needs to be addressed, how much time companies need to get the solutions ready and to have them, for example, tested if that's needed before being able to deploy them. But innovation procurements can definitely be implemented within the time frame of the economic recovery funds. There are examples of innovation procurements that take less than a year to implement. There are examples of innovation procurements that have taken over a decade to implement, with several stages and actually several procurements one after the other before big solutions have been implemented. It all depends on how you practically organize the procurement.
Okay, thank you. I think that's a very important aspect that you raised. What we see is that if you do an innovation procurement on your own as a contracting authority, you're able to manage it on your own, and you can be very effective and efficient. Of course, you also can do a cooperative procurement in which you cooperate with other contracting authorities in order to achieve a common goal. But of course, if you cooperating with your colleagues, it takes time to reach a consensus, and that as such has nothing to do with the procurement project itself, but more with the preparation and taking into account all the relevant mandates that you need to achieve and the formal procedures that you have to follow. So the internal procedures. So yes, it can be very quick, it can be very efficient, it can be very effective, but it all depends on the nature of the project and of course how you set up the organization or the governance structure. What we also see in some regions there are some it takes time before you have the mandates from a political perspective, whatever it is, in order to reach the approval, and that can even take a longer time than the procedure itself. But that's of course depending on your circumstances. So as a conclusion, you can be very effective, efficient, and very short time frame to set up an innovation procurement project. And what Mrs. Bos was saying, it can also take about 10 years before you're there. It's up to you. But that's also what we can provide you with support of, to understand how you can ease the process and perhaps also can ease the way to move forward and to make the right decisions. Let me see in the chat, are there any other questions? I don't think so. No questions from our side. No. So apparently everything is clear. Some from this PCP project from the Bank of Lithuania. Thank you very much for that. For now, I think we can go to the coffee break. So we are I think we're 10 minutes ahead of schedule. Before we go into the coffee break, I also would like to give you another poll. And that is exactly about the point on cooperation, but then on a cross-border cooperation. So we would like to understand how many cross-border procurements you have had, but we will come to that after the coffee break. For now, we have 5-10 minutes break, and we come back sharp at 11, if that's okay for you. Okay, thank you very much. So, welcome. I hope you have enjoyed your coffee. And now we continue with our second part of our webinar. Before I will do that, I will, as promised, I will ask you to fill in another poll about your involvement in cross-border procurement. And as we discussed before the coffee break, that can create a challenge on its own because you need to cooperate with your colleagues. You need to set up a governance structure that's dealing with all kind of relevant aspects. But for now, I will start the poll now. And you have the possibility to fill in that poll as we speak. In the meantime, we also received some other questions that we will answer separately after our webinar. Please take into account that the EAFIP initiative is about supporting PCP and PPI, and that's what we do since several years, and we will continue doing that. So that is the support that you may achieve from us. Okay, I think that the data are even more challenging than when it comes to a standard innovation procurement project. I can imagine, because in cross-border cooperation, cross-border innovation procurement project is really something that is not so that we used to do. Working as a contracting authority from Spain together with a contracting authority from France or whatever it is, it seems logical, but it's not happening so much outside the scope of the Horizon Europe project or the COSME project funded project. So okay, we only have some feedback. So the majority has not participated in that. Only 5% have participated in cross-border procurement, and the majority doesn't know exactly what it needs to, what's it about. So that's good. Please look into the toolkit and look into the EAFIP website, in which you can find all the relevant information, also on the cross-border projects. For now, I would like to continue with the presentations, and let me see. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Leon Verhagen from WBL in the Netherlands.
Okay, good morning. I'm Leon Verhagen from the Water Board Limburg in Holland. That's the southern part of my country. And I was busy the last couple of years with introducing big data solutions for our water chain. And I want to start with a small video of our company and what we are doing now. So if Stefan can start the video, it would be nice.
veiligheidsorganisatie van
So I'm back, I believe. Okay. I'm back here, Stefan. I think so. Huh? Okay. I can't do the next slide. Can you put the next slide on it because it's not working?
Yeah.
Good morning again. You can go to the next one. It was from the video, and the third one that will be the discussion. Yeah, the next one, please. In the context of the video, we had a couple of challenges to solve and to go further with our IT environment. And one of the challenges is how to go to the cloud. And it means we have about 17 wastewater plants, and we will have 4,000 to 5,000 pumping stations, and altogether they will have, I think, about 200,000 IO. And we want to put the industrial automation to the cloud. That's a big challenge because that's normal now by administrative ICT, but in the industrial automation it is never done before. So we started a procedure to invent a way to do it. And one of the biggest things to do is to get the uptime of the systems. It should be 99 or 99%. But why we are doing it really? Because our company is just about 250 people, and we can't get the people to maintain the systems anymore. They just can't, they don't want to work in our company, and we don't have enough IT knowledge. So that's one of the challenges, how to do it, which platform to choose, and things like that. Next slide, please. Then we want to implement the big data platform, because when we have all the data from the industrial automation, we have to put it somewhere, and we have to put it in an environment chosen by the markets. First, you have to make a choice between the big markets, and that means between Google, Amazon, IBM, Azure, things like that. And that's why we started the PCP procedure. We didn't know what to choose and when to choose the platform and how to implement it. How we did that with another private tenders, I will show you later. Next slide, please. But our really challenge was our transport system. We asked the market, hey, we have a problem because we have a lot of pipelines in our transport system, and when you see the theoretical models, it's working always very good. But when you will see the picture, one of the pipelines was tilted, and we have some type leakage and breakage, things like that. So that's a big challenge for us, how the system is working. And we asked the market and how to solve this problem, and we did that with the PCP procedure. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Stefan. And that's why we started the PCP procedure. We had big questions about our transport system. We had big questions if there is already software on the market who can help us to solve our problems. So we started with a market consultation, and the consultation, we asked everybody on earth how to solve our problem. Do you know something? How to put it on the market? And all the questions we had in the challenges. And that means we asked the market to give us a solution design, how to do it. And the solution design was done by 5 parties, one of the USA, one of the Great Britain, one of the companies was Dutch, and together with the Denmark company, and 2 solely Dutch rather. They built 3 prototypes for us, and the prototypes have been tested for, I think, 1 or 2 months. And now we made a selection from the prototype to roll it out in the full environment and architecture of our company. Next slide, please. And then the big challenge came, because how to put it on the market and how to get flexible contracts all over all the participants we want to have as partner. First, we did put a normal private tender on the market about the industrial automation. That's the process automation here, called in blue. That's industrial automation of all our plants and the full transport system and everything that belongs to it. It is then the second lot, it was security. Security, we wanted to change it, because in the past we did put software solutions on the market, and afterwards we were thinking about security. Now we want to integrate it in the security by design principle. So when we put something on the market, we do it with security on the design and implement it on lot A, B, or C. And then the last one, that's the big data platform. That means we wanted to choose, what I told you before, between Google, Amazon, and all the big parties which are now on the market. That's just a normal tender, and they have been put on the market after each other, because when you put it together, then you can have the challenge. You don't want to have the same party for lot 1, lot 2, and lot 3. The winner of lot 2 can't get lot 2. The winner of lot 1 can't get lot 2 and lot 3. Why did we do that? We don't want to butcher to inspect our own meat. If you have to implement a big IT environment, you want a different party to say something about security. But then we came to lot 3, and we started the PCP procedure and lot 3 together, because we did have a question about how to solve our problems with the transport system, and we had the big challenge to choose a platform on which we want to implement it. Next slide, please. And now you see what we have done. You see the colors again from the industrial automation in blue and the security in red. After we had partners for those 2 lots, we were searching for the partner in lot 3, the green one, big data. And because we started it parallel with the PCP procedure, you see in yellow, we asked them in the phase after phase 1, hey, if you want to implement software, on which platform you would do it. And the information we got there was enough to say in the lot from Big Data, hey, we want to implement, in our case, everything on Microsoft Azure. And that was the solution, Finnish free market, to ask them and to find the things most of the applicants will use in the future to implement software. After that, and after seeing the prototypes in all the company, the question is, why want we want to do things like that? And the real challenge is, from the PCP procedure, we want to do business with small companies and universities. And if you do business with them in a PCP procedure, it's easy, because they will have a very nice solution for your problems, and you can implement it. But if you do that more times, and maybe 10 or 15 times, it will be, I don't see the presentation anymore, Stefan. Let me see what's happening. Yeah, there is it again. When you do it more times, you have to have platforms and big platforms and partners to implement the solutions of the small partners. And that's what we have done in this project. We have now framework contracts all about the lots and in the PCP procedure, how they should work together. And what's the meaning of that? Because the small companies in the PCP procedure can't maintain the software. And if they can't do it, they have to put it, that challenge to lot 1, 2, and 3. In practice, if we have a solution in software, the intellectual property rights will be with our own company. And we will give the property rights to the winners of lot 1, 2, and 3, together with the PCP procedure, to implement it on more places in Holland or in Europe. And then the challenge is, if we can do it and they sell it more times on the market, the maintenance will be better and we will get the maintenance more cheap. So it's a win-win situation for us and for the markets. Next slide, please. And then you now see we have a PDCA circle to boost innovation in our company. You see the 3 lots: industrial automation, security, and the big data platform. That's now the standard with our company and the standard in Holland, how to use it. And we want to use the PCP procedure every time again to boost innovation in our company. And look on this way to be innovative in the water sector. That was I think, our last slide.
Okay, thank you, Leon. Just for my understanding, and perhaps you can also say something about it, this was, I believe, the first time that you have set up such a PCP scheme as part of a full-blown program, together with the other procurements for the other lots. That's what you have described. We just had the question about if it was difficult, were a lot of people involved. Can you also say something about that? Were a lot of people involved from the view of from the side of WBL, from a technical perspective or a legal perspective, or can you say something about that?
I think the legal perspective, we are a company, it's Curvers, that's yourself, so that is easy. But in my company, it's a big challenge, because if you go to a data-driven company, everything will change in your company and everybody will be involved in the implementation and the choices you make. This is the first one, so it's just a small one, if you can call it a small one with 200,000 IO. But when we have implemented that, we want in the future extend it with other software and other sort of data. So the financial system, our asset management system will be incorporated in the solution we have chosen now. And we will do more big data analytics and machine learning algorithms putting on it.
Okay, and then a question relating to the cooperation with the tech vendors and the companies. So you mentioned that as part of the PCP, not only bigger companies but also startups and SMEs have been involved. What could you say about the relationship between you as WBL on one side and the other side with the companies? Because I can imagine that also the PCP scheme for them was new. And our next presenter will, of course, say more about it from his perspective. But can you also say something from your perspective on that? What were your findings?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is you are searching for partners. And normally in ICT, you just make a functional thing and you put it on the market, you buy it, and you will implement it, and you have the maintenance cost about it. But that's not enough. If you want to have a data-driven organization, you have to do slowly. And that's one of the challenges. You can't do it alone, and you can't say everything on forehand because everything is new, not only for you, but also for your partners. And that is the big challenge. And one of the most important things is, and you told it before, is working together with small companies, small innovative companies and universities. Because until now, when we had something and we developed something, we could implement it. But standardization of the software and integrated in the rest is a big challenge if you have things like that. And now you have the three partners and us who have to work together with the PCP procedures to implement it on a standard way in our own company.
Okay. And then the last question from my side before we go to the presentation of Royal Haskoning, the EAFIP. Your relationship as WBL with other contracting authorities. So you're situated near the German border. Could you say that this approach was also creating interest from your colleagues, for example, in Germany or from Belgium or of course, from the Netherlands?
Yeah, it's of course interesting for all of Holland and maybe much further than Holland, because I have seen many projects with my colleagues, and they started up a procedure, they developed something, and they had a very nice solution of it. But then they wanted to implement it on a big scale, and then you have to do a tender on the European market. And if you have already made the choices what to do and how to do it, it's very difficult to put that on the market. So most of the projects ended in a slump and nothing came out again. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Leon. Now we switch to Mr. Melchior Schenk. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, and thank you, Leon, for the explanation so far. I'm a bit biased, but I found it very interesting. And I'm representing today. I'm representing Royal Haskoning DHV. I'm Melchior Schenk, Business Development Director for AquaSuite within Royal Haskoning DHV, and that means that on a daily basis, I'm working together with clients in the water sector to basically to tackle any of the challenges they face on a daily basis. Today we'll give you a short introduction of the company, and then I move into on how we work with the PCP, the benefits, but also some challenges we faced, and try to explain a bit on how we solve those challenges and how we have worked together with the WBL. So shortly, who are we? Who's RHDHV, or in full Royal Haskoning BHV? We're a Dutch engineering consultancy firm. We are celebrating our 140-year anniversary this year, so it's quite a special year for us, actually. We are working together with over 6,000 colleagues to enhance society together. That's what we are working on a daily basis, and we do that in over 140 countries. We're an independent organization, and we mainly focus on engineering and consultancy. But over the years, we also developed technologies such as Nerida, Evira, Temista. And last but not least, we are a software company as well. And within that software company, we have AquaSuite, and that's where I'm basically working for on a daily basis. AquaSuite basically is working on closing the water circuit with different solutions. So we're looking at drinking water sites, at wastewater treatment sites, and then adding advanced intelligent automation solutions, or how we call it, the virtual operator. We try to close the entire cycle by adding smart automation solutions. So if you are looking at our time frame, we basically have been doing that for almost 25 years. This year, we're actually celebrating our 25-year anniversary, so to say, with our first customer, WML, which is also based in Limburg. They were our first client, and they are still with us, so we're extremely proud of that. But over the years, we have seen many challenges in the market, and we always try to solve those challenges by adding smart data-driven technologies. And that entire product suite, which we call Aqua Suite, so has been basically driven by client needs and client challenges. I think that also connects very well to what we have been doing with the PCP procedure, as been explained by Leon. It's they had a specific challenge for the waste water transportation system. They put it on the market, and in the end, we tried to supply what we think was the best solution. So moving forward, our experience with the PCP procedure. In short, it was exciting, challenging, and in the end, for us, very rewarding. It was new for the Dutch market, at least. So we have learned a lot, and we'll try to explain those learnings to us. But first, the request and the question raised by Leon in the first presentation about they have challenges in the wastewater treatment transportation networks, and they were looking to basically solve that challenge by using artificial intelligence, and we translate that into providing actionable insights, meaning that using all the data and sensors they currently have, add that, send that to a cloud-based digital twin, and provide insights which they would normally not have with the daily practices at the moment. And in order to do so, we have used what we call an analytics platform. It's called Aqua Suite Analytics, and we use machine learning and artificial intelligence in a scalable cloud platform to drive those efficiencies and give the insights which they would normally not have. So looking at the data, trying to detect, for instance, leakages way before they would normally do, try to see what's going on within the transportation network, and obviously that's underground for a big chunk of the transportation network as well. So you normally would not have insights there, but we use those technologies to create those insights. So if you look at the PCP and especially the benefits as a supplier, there are quite a few. I think what's very interesting is Leon already mentioned it. There are several phases. In this particular slide, I call them toll gates, but different phases within the process of the solution design, developing and prototyping and demo, and in the end rollout of the solution. And I think that's a benefit because while you're working on a solution, you have clear go, no go stages through the process. So at one point, if you are good enough, or you pass the criteria of, in this case, WBL, you can move forward to the next phase. If not, the program ends there for you. I think that gives it's for a supplier, it gives you a clear overview on if you still need to continue with your investment or stop there. We like very lines of communication, not only with WBL, we obviously have very regular communication or regular meetings, but also with the other suppliers of different lots, like the lot 1, 2, and 3 for cybersecurity, for post automation, and in the end for the data lake. So there was very open communication on what we were working on, what they were working on, and how we could fit it together. And obviously we were not the only ones. All the suppliers were able to have those discussions, and that really helps on gaining basically traction, but also reflecting the concepts and ideas you would have. So if you would have new ideas, we added not only technical people from our side, but also people with a lot of domain knowledge. So really people who understand all the details about wastewater transportation and networks. They'll be able to talk to the operators and analysts from WBL in order to make sure that you have the right solution for them in the end. And that also means that you can offer whatever is in your capabilities. If you would have an ID which you were very, very easily be able to develop, you're free to do so. And also if you find maybe challenges in the request which you're not totally comfortable with, you are free to not touch that topic and maybe do something else in close cooperation and discussion with the client. So you are really able to tune your solution you are going to present and you're going to prototype to your own capabilities. And in the end, you have the opportunity. It's, I think, the ultimate opportunity to showcase yourself. I think, we were from day one very confident that we would be able to supply WBL what they wanted. So a cloud-based digital twin, providing them answers based on machine learning algorithms for the wastewater transportation network. But in the end, you need to do it. And with I would say like a standard tender procedure, you need to write everything down. And it's also a bit about interpretation of the tender team of the client on if your message is conveyed in a proper way. But in this case, we had clear the demonstration opportunities to show them actually what we have done and to make sure that they fully understood what we were aiming for with our solution in this case. Then there are obviously always challenges in projects like this as well. For us, I think in general, a challenge is that you need to keep a close eye on your investment versus the reward. Because you have the different toll gates, you need to invest in an early stage already to get the solution designs, to get the prototype, because a working prototype already has a lot of development taken into account. So you need to keep a close eye on what you're going to show, how much you're going to invest in that, versus in the end the reward, because they're all fixed toll gates. So also the reward's already known upfront in this case. Second one, it's a relatively long process. It started with the market consultation beginning, pre-qualification, then the several stages up to the reward. So I think in general, being a supplier, it's always important not to be impatient, and that's not my strongest point in a sense, but I'm very happy that we were and we got rewarded. So I think these are the main challenges, because overall, I think the benefits definitely are way important than these challenges. Because if you look at the product we are now finally releasing, I think it was well, and that's basically summed up in this reference slide. This is what we have made together, basically, because that's an important fact, is that Leon mentioned it already, but partnership. And that's definitely because it might take a bit longer than you normally would expect in a tender procedure, but you're working closely together with different teams. There are a lot of people involved from both sides, but you're really partnering up on creating the solution which is really fit for purpose. I think that's important. So we are very happy with what we are currently rolling out. So it became really cloud-based digital twin, using the machine learning models and basically analyze the entire wastewater transportation network. Giving the actionable insights, which I mentioned already before, so self-learning algorithms, detect leaks, detect bursts as fast as possible, giving real-time feedback based on the sensors and different data points they might have, also implementing weather forecasts and doing calculations in our cloud-based platform. So overall, I think we're very happy and very excited that we are able to roll it out. Even though we were a bit impatient in times during the procedure, we're actually quite excited that we are working together still to implement the PCP procedure. So that was it in a nutshell.
Okay, Melchior, thank you very much for your presentation. Quite enlightening. Just one question from my side before we go to the Q&A about the possibilities to enlarge your market as a result of this PCP. Can you say something about that? Because we know about WBL, that has been explained, and that to help you to create this improved time to market for Aquaseed and the additional functionalities on that relating to artificial intelligence. But what do you expect more from a commercial perspective? Is it going to help you not only as a reference side, but also as a follow-up, as a stepping stone for other possibilities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we have been building and are rolling out within the PCP, we can definitely use that to our advantage on international markets as well. So it's both national as well as international. And we see a similar request and demand, not only in Europe, but also outside. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we can go to the Q&A. Let me see if there are any Okay, I see here a question. Perhaps it is more for this more for Leon. So I go back to you. So, question from Antonia. The project is excellent. I would like to congratulate you, those responsible. I have many questions. What was your budget as a starting point? How long did it take to implement it? What did it cost you? What did it cost you the most? So, starting with first, what was about the budget? Can you say something about that from the PCP, Leon? Wait, you're muted, but I'm going to unmute you. Yes.
Okay. The PCP procedure and the development of the IE and machine learning algorithms included the cost of the camera itself will be about €1 million.
Okay. And what was the most costly part thereof? Was it the out-of-pocket cost or was it internal cost?
The most costly part is, of course, the development of the prototype. Yeah. Because as Melchior told you, they have to develop it and you have to pay for it because then you know what you will get back. But what is costly? Costly will say to us, we will get it cheap, and Melchior wants to sell it and get the money back with other companies.
Yeah. And the last question was on timing, and that perhaps also has to do with the remark from Melchior about his impatience on the time frame. But could you say something about the duration of the project, including the market consultation? I think that's good for people to know. So you started with the market consultation before you set up the scheme.
Yeah, we started with the market consultation, and then we took a couple of weeks to ask the questions and give answer to it, and put it on a paper and give it back to the people and the companies. But the most time was the implementation of the prototype, because you have to do with 3 companies, all the same discussions, all give them the same data, all discuss with them what's happening with our transport system like that. So that was a big investment for a lot of people in our company. Mm-hmm. But the procedure of the PCP, it's almost a standard. You just roll it out. But the combination with the lots 1, 2, and 3, that's all new on the framework contracts. They take a lot of time to make them and to convince all the participants and partners to sign them.
Yeah. So as an takeaway learning point, I think that setting up a right procurement strategy was very important for this approach, including the framework agreements, the multiple procurement, and of course the PCP embedded in a total program. So I think that was one of the learning points that people can have from this approach, isn't it?
It's a learning point that gives us the possibility now for 5 years to do what we want with all our partners and with new PCP procedures. Yeah. So it's about the future.
Exactly, within the context of what you have agreed upon, of course, and what you have communicated, yes. Okay, thank you very much. Let me see, are there any other questions for Leon or Melchior? Let me see, am I missing something? Okay, if there are any other questions left, we can answer them at the end of this session, of the webinar, if any, and otherwise you can send them in and then we will collect them and put them in a Q&A document and send them to you in a few days. Okay, thank you, Leon.
Okay.
Before we go to the other presentation, I also would like to see if to ask another support on another poll. And that's a question on, are you planning to start an innovation procurement project? And as always, you have about 90 seconds to look into it, and we start it now. We would appreciate to receive your feedback. You have now listened to 2 forerunners in innovation procurement, one from the financial sector, from the Bank of Lithuania, the other one from the Netherlands in the water chain on artificial intelligence. So it gives you an idea what innovation procurement can do for you and how it can help you to do the next steps. And I think it was also important that with the PCP, as I think that as it has been explained both by Lithuania and by WBL, is that the possibility to steer the market and to speed up the market in that sense is really helping contracting authorities. And without that PCP scheme, that would have been perhaps even not possible, or it would be extremely difficult in order to achieve that in a way. Because if you don't do anything, and that's the standard behavior, there was a standard behavior a few years ago of contracting authorities throughout Europe, is that you just have to wait and see what the market is going to develop. And I think that's one of the major benefits that we see with this innovation procurement approaches, specifically on PCP, is that you have the ability and the possibility to steer the market developments in the way that you see fit. I think that's well, as stated, that's one of the big advantages. So let me see. I think that that's nice. About 40% is thinking about starting an innovation procurement project, and 47% is not really doesn't know if they would like to do it, yes or no. But anyhow, that's a very good starting point for this session and for the next session. Thank you for that. And then we can go to the next presentation. And that is from Dublin. And we are very pleased that we have some very interesting speakers, very interesting presentations from the city of Dublin. And Nicola Graham is doing the presentation on behalf of the city of Dublin. Nicola, may I pass the floor to you, please?
Thanks very much, Stephen. Good morning, everybody. It's still morning in Dublin at the moment. Good afternoon to everybody who it's already gone past 12 o'clock. My name is Nicola Graham, and I am the Smart City Operations Manager in Dublin City Council. So in my job, I wear a lot of hats, including exploring new opportunities, working with companies to develop solutions, project management and procurement. Sorry, I'm just...
Yeah. Do you want me to control the sheets? Is that okay for you?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
that would be great. Next slide, please. So I'm going to tell you a bit about, I suppose, our journey towards being a smarter city. Next slide, please. So in Dublin, in Ireland, we have 31 local authorities in the Republic. Unlike other European cities, the Lord Mayor is not directly elected and has a ceremonial function. Each local authority is managed and the day-to-day operations are run by the Chief Executive. We have no remit over health, education or policing, but are quite involved in planning, housing, roads and traffic, waste management, libraries and culture, recreation and amenities. Next slide, please. So what is Smart Dublin? Smart Dublin is an initiative of the 4 Dublin local authorities to find innovative solutions for challenges facing the region and ultimately to try and improve public services, making Dublin a better place to live, to be, to visit and to do business. Next slide, please. And just to give you a flavour of some of the projects that are happening in Dublin, we have a short video to show.
population that lives in cities, and this is going to increase significantly.
Next slide, please, Stephen. So, as was mentioned in the video, our programme covers a wide number of themes, looking at smart economy, smart mobility, smart environment, smart people, smart living, and smart government. And the main aim is to promote better services, promote innovation, improve economic activity, and of course, collaboration and engagement with the market. Next slide, please. And we do this through a collaboration model. In the video, and from the slide there, you'll see a number of large companies mentioned and their logos, but we also want to work with small, medium enterprises, entrepreneurs, and startups. We work across academia with other local authorities, both in Dublin and nationally, and we've also engaged with other cities across Europe as well. Next slide, please. And how do we collaborate? We use a challenge-based approach. So when Smart Dublin started, we held a number of different workshops with both administrative and operational staff to try and identify the key challenges across the Dublin region. We had a list of those, and then we tried to address these challenges using different innovative processes. Next slide, please. And our motto at the start when we launched Smart Dublin back in 2016 was that we were big enough yet small enough to be the ideal location to pilot and test new city services and solutions. Next slide, please. And how we've developed this idea over the last 2 years is we've dedicated smart districts. Our Smart Docklands district focuses on telecoms and IoT. Smart Sandyford is focused on mobility research. Smart DCU, which is one of our university campuses, looks at mobility, 3D modelling and digital twins. Smart Balbriggan is a community-focused smart district and very interested in areas involved in the public realm. And our latest district is the Smart 8 district, which is our health and wellbeing district. Each of these districts has a unique landscape and allows us to trial and test multiple solutions focused in each of the areas across the Dublin region. Next slide, please. And we all, as a public body, we all have tales to tell of the horror of procurement. A lot of the time, the process can be quite rigid, and we can end up with solutions that don't really fit the needs of the city councils. Next slide, please. But why is procurement important? So, over 2 trillion 2 trillion is spent on public procurement in the EU by the public sector each year, which accounts for 14% of the EU's GDP. If we improved efficiency by even 1%, we could save 20 billion annually. And in terms of our public services, maintaining high quality public service requires innovative and more efficient procurement processes to support the increase in pace and advance of technology. Next slide, please. So some of the some of the comparisons between traditional and innovative procurement. The traditional procurement model, the specification can be quite narrow. There can be limited engagement from the market. We're open to an increased chance of failure or additional costs due to customizing solutions as we go through the process. There's a lack of flexibility and there's a higher risk of failure at scale. So, and innovative procurement has a broader scope which encourages innovation. The results in increased expressions of interest, which means more ideas generated and the possibility of new and innovative solutions. It gives us a chance to understand what works and what doesn't work. We can accelerate the latest thinking, and it gives us a chance to test and evaluate solutions and reduces the risk on the City Council. Next slide, please. So we've trialled PCP processes and PPI processes. With the PCP process, we've used an open call for solutions to address specific challenges where there are no existing solutions on the market. The technology is quite early stage. The PCP process helps the ideation, the feasibility, and the initial prototyping. It encourages SME participation. Another advantage is the co-design process with the public sector. And SMEs are often encouraged to collaborate together to build and develop better solutions. It's a shared risk model with shared benefit. And what we're purchasing is the research and development services, not the actual products or services at the end. Next slide, please. With PPI, it's an open call for a more clearly defined solution to address a specific challenge. Solutions may exist, but they're not currently available commercially. The solution is a bit more developed. The technology readiness level is slightly higher. It encourages, again, SME participation, but I suppose it allows, it's less of a co-design process and more of a pilot test and feedback from the public sector to hone in on the solution itself. Excuse me. In my experience, I suppose I found that there's a reduced supplier collaboration that is encouraged more with the PCP process. It's still a shared risk, shared benefit model, and the main advantage that we saw in Dublin was the opportunity to trial and test before committing to purchase, but that we had a way to actually purchase the solution at the end. Next slide, please. So Smart Dublin has carried out over 11 challenges in partnership with Enterprise Ireland under the Small Business Innovation Research initiative, and that uses a PCP process. So we've awarded 42 innovation contracts in areas like smart mobility, smart environment, smart people, and smart living. Next slide, please. The process looks quite like this. Problem identification at the start. We engaged with a number of stakeholders to try and really hone in on what the problem was. Pushed out an open challenge to the market. There was an evaluation process on proposals that came in. Phase 1 was about 3 to 6 months and allowed suppliers to work with the council expertise to develop and deploy a solution. At the end of Phase 1, those proposals were evaluated again, and we had about up to 6 companies participate in Phase 1, and then it was reduced to maybe 4 or 5 into Phase 2. In Phase 2 then lasted about 8 to 12 months and allowed time to deploy the solution and to test and validate the results. Next slide, please. So here are 3 examples from our SBIR process and the outcomes. So we looked at one challenge that focused on cycling. One of the companies went on to work with Dublin City and secured additional EU funding to expand their project, which was rolled out in other cities across Europe. With our gully monitoring challenge, we extended the testing period to validate the results. It was a co-designed solution with the council, and it's provided us with better information to inform a larger tender process. With the illegal dumping challenge, although no solutions were actually identified, it allowed us to be more informed as to what current technology was available to try and address the challenge of illegal dumping. And we now have an increased awareness of the need to utilise and standard our data across the region. Next slide, please. So after 11 challenges, we still had something missing. We struggled to purchase the solution at the end. Our restrictions on procurement and our thresholds still prevented us from working with the SMEs who would work with to develop these solutions. So we had to think of something new. Next slide, please. So our next challenge presented itself in the form of the Ring Boys or Life Boys challenge. So, excuse me, 600 ring boys go missing every year in Dublin. They're often found in hotel rooms around the city after stags and hens parties. They're found floating in the river. And this costs the council about €20,000 a year. But the more important thing, missing life boys can lead to loss of life. Water safety officers are responsible for managing and monitoring life buoys in Ireland. There's 32 local authorities, and each local authority has an appointed water safety officer. So Dublin City Council worked with the Water Safety Ireland to look at this challenge to try and find a solution to address the theft. The existing process involves manual inspection of individual ring buoys by an inspector from each of the local authorities. We wanted to know, was there a way that we could introduce a technology solution that could try and improve this process? One that was low cost, retrofittable, an IoT solution, and end-to-end alerting and monitoring system, which would reduce the time it would take to replace any lost or missing ring buoys. Next slide, please. So what we did was we applied for funding through our National Innovation Fund, and at the same time we also applied through EAFIP to help us to look at innovative procurement models so we could proceed with this challenge. Excuse me. We worked with Corvers to try and develop a process that would help us to address this challenge, and they helped us to, they advised us that we should look at doing some market consultation before going out to tender. We launched a pin notice and captured information from multiple solutions, which helped inform our PPI tender. And then they helped us to develop our PPI process, which you can see there from the model. It looks at tender applications. It's a two-phased multi-supplier framework agreement, which allows you to trial and test, but then to purchase at the end, which really addressed our biggest challenge coming out of the PCP process. Next slide, please. So we issued the market challenge with the chance to validate and then buy. 20 companies applied through the process, with 4 pilots underway in Dublin. We have Resure, Civic, Semicon, Ziggytech, all working on solutions. At the moment, we have, I think, 25 Ring Boys deployed across 4 pilot sites in Dublin. The 4 Dublin local authorities have collaborated on this project to work together to provide pilot sites. And the other advantage of this solution is that we've also allowed for 19 other local authorities to be able to draw down on this framework once phase 1 is completed. At the end of phase 1, there'll be an evaluation. Each of the companies will have a chance to deploy and test and feedback to the local authorities. And after this point, representatives from Water Safety Ireland, from the different local authorities, will evaluate the solutions. And any solution that's deemed successful will remain on the framework and will, through a mini competition, the other 19 local authorities, as well as the 4 Dublin local authorities, will be able to purchase the solution directly from these suppliers who've been engaged in the process. Next slide, please. Now, I suppose the thing to mention is that we're not saying that traditional procurement doesn't have its place, because I've experienced with working with traditional procurement and innovative procurement, and traditional procurement does have its place. There are certain challenges that require a more narrow specification. But I suppose the main takeaway from my experience with innovative procurement is to really look at your challenge and what you're trying to, what solution you're trying to develop, and what are the needs. So using innovative technologies needs a different approach to our traditional processes. Next slide, please. Again, just to reiterate, I suppose the advantage of the PPI, it's an open call for a more clearly defined solution to address a specific challenge. The solution exists, but it's not currently commercially available. The technology level is more developed. It allows the SMEs, startups, entrepreneurs to participate. For public bodies, you have the chance to pilot, to test, and to feedback with the companies to develop solutions that really address your needs. It is a shared risk, shared benefit model, and the framework that we've developed, it allows you to trial test before committing to purchase, but it also allows other the process is quite replicable, so we can use that process again and again with other challenges across the city. Next slide, please. Okay, so I suppose in summary, my main takeaways are: be open to trying something new, try to choose the right process So what is your end goal? What are you trying to achieve? Do you need a solution that is more flexible? One of the other big things is share your experience, so the good and the bad. With our PPI process, we've spoken to 5 different departments in Dublin City Council who are all thinking about trying to use and replicate the PPI process. It's the first time that it's actually been used in Ireland at all. So we're very proud to have been able to work on this with Corvers, and as part of the EAFIP process. We've discussed it with other local authorities and public sector bodies across Ireland, particularly in the health innovation space, and they're really keen to explore options under the PPI. And COVID-19 has shown that public sector can be innovative and has accelerated the need for and the desire for smarter solutions. So we need to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, Nicola, thank you very much for this excellent presentation. It seems to me that the City of Dublin is looking at it from a strategic perspective, because it is part of the Smart City initiative, put it like that. And this is just one of the elements that you would like to tackle. Do you think there's also room for these kind of approaches outside the scope of the Smart City initiative? You already mentioned the health sector, for example, but looking at from your perspective as a city, as a municipality, what do you think that how you could use it and improve it for other goals or the challenges?
I think, we found that using the pin notice very, very useful to just try and see what solutions were out there, to get an idea on what we needed, what the requirements were. As I said, we've discussed this process and we're advertising it throughout Dublin City Council as a way to be innovative, to move forward. A lot of solutions that we're looking for, we need a bit more flexibility that traditional procurement prevents. By building this process into our innovation strategy within Dublin City Council, I think it helps other departments to think and explore additional solutions. Even, I suppose, combining the PPI process with the PCP process, which before we weren't aware that we could do. Before working with Corvers, we weren't aware that you could trial and test first and then run a PPI process afterwards. So I think sharing the knowledge across different departments, the more we talk about it, the more we engage with people on the process and show them the value of the process and the ability to trial and test solutions before you actually have to purchase them is a real advantage, because it allows you to identify early on if there's any barriers and how you can then work with the companies to overcome those barriers.
Yes, this is my last remark before we go to the other presentation. And question to you: do you also see that before you starting implementing innovation procurement schemes, the relationship, I'm targeting at the relationship between you as the City of Dublin and the companies, has that improved? Has that changed? Has that created an additional value for you as a city? Just as a starting point, I can imagine that you were talking about relationship with SMEs and startups, and not only with big companies. I think that also SMEs and startups really need your support as acting as a sort of launching customer for their products and services. How do you set it up? What kind of other ways do you see to be engaged with these kind of companies?
Okay, well, I suppose Kieran, who's going to speak next, can contradict me if I say anything wrong. But I think we've in Smart Dublin, during the PCP process, we did a lot of engagement with the companies. We held information sessions with the experts in the departments. We had a champion from the department. I supported 2 of our challenges quite closely, so regular updates with the companies. And over time, you do build up that kind of relationship with the companies. You know, you want them to do well because you're working so closely with them that you want them to succeed. We organised, as I said, different events to promote the solution both internally as part of national events like Enterprise Week. So I think a lot of it was trying to get their story out as well through our social media, through all the different channels that we have, and holding different events. Now, obviously, that's been quite limited over the last year and a half. But I suppose we're trying through webinars and again through engagement with different departments on the types of solutions to help, you know, encourage other departments to look at SMEs and develop, you know, that kind of relationship where a solution could be used maybe in a slightly different way to tackle another type of challenge.
Exactly. Okay, thank you very much. And then now we're bridging that to the presentation of Kieran, director of Semicon, one of the forerunners and one of the suppliers on the PPI project. Okay, thank you, Kieran. The floor is yours. Shall I do the presentation, or can you do it on your own?
Well, just if you give me the, I don't see the slides yet, but if you give them to me, I'll see if I can do it. Yes. Yeah.
You see it now?
I see it there. Yeah, very good. Yep, I see it.
I can do it for you. That's fine for me.
But I don't see the control panel.
No. I can see it, so you just say next sheet.
Okay, very good. Okay, yes. Well, thank you very much, Stefan and Nicola, for inviting me to talk to you today. As Nico was saying, Semicon was one of the companies involved, or is one of the companies involved in the Ringboy project, and previously in the Gully monitor. So we've experience of both the SBIR, which I've learned is a C process, and also with the PPI on the Ringboy. So both of them. So maybe I suppose the first slide there, please. Yeah, that's and the next one, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll start off by discussing a little bit about what. Oh, sorry. Oops. Oh no, I can't control it. I can control this on my own thing here. Yeah. Sorry, the next slide. Yeah. So I'll just talk a little bit about what we do as a company, and also then our experiences with the 3 models that have been discussed. One is traditional procurement from the supplier point of view. Also SBIR, which is I learned this morning is PCP, and also the PPI. Then I'll compare them all together. So next slide, please. Yeah. So what do we do? Well, basically, at heart, we are an electronics company. We develop electronic products. The first part of our business is the development of customized circuit boards. So if a company makes a machine or some sort of product and they require a special circuit board specific to that machine, then we develop that and supply it. But also, we develop our own electronic products for supply to the market. Including the 2 that you see there. In particular, we're developing a series of IoT products, which are remote sensors you put in remote locations to detect certain phenomena, certain physical parameters. And the 2 products you see there are the 2 that we have developed with Nicola, with Dublin City Council. The top one there is the Gully monitor. Gully is another word for a drain, a street drain. So if there's flooding, too much water because of rain, and a gully blocks because it's physically blocked with leaves or silt or something, you want to be able to detect that condition so that you can send out maintenance staff. So this was a problem that Dublin had. They organised the SBIR, we participated, and we've developed a product as a result of that. Second product down there is the ring buoy monitor that's being tested at the moment. So I'll go into more details in a moment, but you can go to the next slide, please. So in general, this is our other business. This is the general development of circuit boards. This is our a big part of our business. We develop circuit boards for various applications. So everything we do is technically innovative, whether it's on medical or audio or lighting or whatever. It's always at the forefront of technology. So everything is innovative. So next slide, please. Yeah. Now, our experience with procurement as a supplier, as I said, there are three different types of procurement. There's the traditional tendering process. Now, I listed here, even though we've never participated, but we've never even considered selling products or services to the public sector because we just never considered them. To be honest with you, as the kind of client that we would work with. We've always worked with companies supplying, as I say, customized solutions. So anytime we've had any dealings with tenders, it's through clients, and they've always seemed like terribly complicated processes. Like the tender document might be 100 pages long and requiring 6 or 10 or 20 different supporting documents, and it seemed like an awful lot of work with a very uncertain outcome. So not something we really pursued. We helped our clients put in tenders, but we ourselves didn't do it directly, mainly because most tenders would only have one winner, and if you have no idea as a small company what your chances are, they're probably not very good, so you just never bothered. But then SBIR came along in 2016, and which was for us was transformational because it was very. I'll have a slide on that now. I'll go to it in a second, but that was our first introduction to the process, and it helped us a lot to get into the whole process, and it's been quite successful, I would say, from our point of view. And I have a slide on that, but the last one is the Innovation Procurement PPI that is being used for the ring buoy. That also has been a great experience for us. It's underway at the moment, and explained the difference from our point of view between the two in a moment. So please, the next slide. Yeah, this is the SBIR experience, the PCP. So as Nicola was saying, there was a competition out there. I say a very accessible way for a small company to enter the public procurement process. What I mean by that was that there was a very simple process. The form was maybe 15 pages, 20 pages, and we were quite free to compile the application the way we saw fit. But in particular, it was stated that the number of successful candidates would be more than one. So in fact, it was 6. So as a small company with small resources, you say, well, okay, there's a fairly good chance of being successful if we have a decent solution, which we did. So we applied for the competition, and we were successful in the first phase and the second phase and later on. So it was a way for us as a technology provider to enter the process. Yeah. So anyway, the other aspect to bear in mind is that there was a need. Dublin City Council defined a need, which they were indicating that they would eventually possibly buy the solution that would come as a result of that. But if you're a company and you're making products, one of the questions you always have to ask yourself is, well, what do I do? What product will I make? Well, if somebody comes along, a city comes along, a local authority comes to you and says, we have a need, we have a product. If there was a product, we'd love to buy it. So that almost like half the work is done for you. The Dublin City defined a product for us, which is sometimes it's overlooked here, not understood, but that's a very significant part of this. Anyway, there was a challenge. So we applied. Also, Dublin City Council helped us in improving and perfecting our products. So Roy O'Donnell there, who runs the Gully system there, organized lots of testing for us and very much helped us do that. So that was very good to be officially covered in that work. As it was a phased process, we went through several stages. It was funded, which was very handy, of course. Nice to get funding for a project. But in particular, Dublin City Council and Enterprise Ireland, which was also involved, they encouraged us to create a product that we would make commercially available to the entire market, the whole world. So there's no pretense, not like when you're dealing with some private companies. They say, well, if we're paying you for this, then we own everything. There was none of that. There was funding to develop a product, and we were encouraged to turn that product into our own commercial product. The only thing I would say is that at the end of the process, and Nicola alluded to this earlier, there's no guarantee of an order. There's no big tender for 1,000 units or something out there. So in a way, it's there still, but it's that issue has been resolved in the PPI. But that's the only thing that could be maybe improved on it. But otherwise, it's been a great experience for us. So maybe next slide, please. Yeah. I just put this slide here. I'm not going to read this, but when asked to speak today, invited to speak today, I had to Google PCP and PPI, but I had to understand what these terms really meant, because from a supplier point of view, these don't mean very much. It was, for us, it was just a competition. So it was very interesting to understand that it was that it was a formal process, and not only national, but it's actually a European process. So it's very encouraging to see that it may be extended to an international context. So maybe next slide. Yeah. So I say it may not be that important to understand, but probably a lot of suppliers would not understand that there's this model there. Anyway, for the Ringboy project, this is a PPI. This is very similar to the SBIR. It was also very open. Again, the main thing was that it was a public tender, but there wasn't going to be one winner. There'd be many suppliers. So again, it encouraged a lot of small companies like ourselves to put in a proposal. So, but the big difference from our point of view, and I'm not sure if this is inherent to PPI, but the major difference between this and the SBIR was that at the end of the process, the companies that would qualify would be formally accepted into the tender. So there'd be no need to go to the various local authorities like we have to do, for example, for the Gully Monitor. Even in the case of the Gully Monitor, we need to go to every authority separately, even to Dublin City, who sponsored the original project. We have to tender with them, so we have to wait for a tender to appear, which hopefully will happen sometime. But in the case of the Ringboy project, that's not the case at all. As part of this whole process, something that is driving the project forward, something that's giving the project momentum, is the fact that at the end, after all this work is done, not only do we have a product that we can commercially propose to the entire market, but we already have a set of approved clients. Many of them, not just Dublin City, but the other 3 authorities in Dublin and about 20 more around Ireland. So that is very significant. It's a big difference. So anyway, it was like the SBIR. This was formulated as a competition, as a challenge. A need was identified, and we just, like the other companies, we just identified a way to solve that problem. Dublin City Council also is assisting us in the deployment, advising us where to test our units. We feed back information to them about how the testing is going, what we're seeing, and we compare notes. It's very, very much a collaborative effort, like the Gully Monitor. It's a phased process. We're at the first phase at the moment. It's funded, it's partially funded. It's not as generous as the SBIR, but it's enough to cover some of the basic costs of the product, which is all you need. And considering that at the end you own the product, in other words, the supplier owns the product and has the potential to be a supplier to many councils without the need to retender. That's a pretty good deal, I think. can't complain. So, the last comment there, yeah. So the main point is in number 8 there. There's no need to tender to other local authorities. There's no waiting for a tender. There's no keeping an eye on the public tenders portal, wondering when. It's all be done, all be ready to go. There's no additional compiling of complicated documents. So we expect and hope, assuming that the thing is all successful, we hope the thing to be much quicker and in the future. So when this is finished. So maybe next slide. Yeah, I just threw this in here. We're not just developing the electronic product, but because the products we're developing are reporting to the cloud what's happening. In other words, there's flooding or a ring buoy missing or whatever. We also have to develop the cloud side application. So the whole thing is quite costly, but it's helped us cover these kinds of costs. So yeah, next slide, please. Last slide. Yeah, this is the last slide. Just the comparison of the 3 processes. I didn't mention the traditional procurement method because we've never applied for that because it was just too complicated and with a very uncertain outcome. But the SBIR process, it was well funded. However, it does not necessarily lead to a volume contract, which is the only sort of thing that could be improved. However, for us, as a company that had never applied for a public contract, it was an easy way to get into the public procurement process. The forms were very simple, very easy, very accessible. So that was very, very good. The other process, and in fact, until this morning, I didn't realize that was a PCP process. So the second point should be just PPI. The PPI process is driven, from our point of view, is driven by the desire of all parties. That's us, that's Dublin City Council, that's Water Safety Ireland, even the public. It's all driven by the desire to have a successful deployment, a successful system in the end. Everybody wants this thing to work. Everybody, the Dublin City Council, for example, wants all 4 companies to work, which is great. There's no sort of weaning out just one. So it has momentum. This project is being pushed forward. It's really, really moving. Everybody wants to get to that last point where we have the product finished and out there. So, as I say, it has the partial funding helps, and at the end, if we're successful, which hopefully we will be an approved supplier to many county councils, many local authorities, which is quite significant. We can knock on people's doors in different county councils and say, "Hey, we're an approved supplier." So that is quite beneficial. Anyway, both processes are similar in the sense that they both identify a need for a product or a service, and both importantly allow the supplier to retain product ownership, which is important too. So in both cases, we are being encouraged to develop a product that we can commercially propose to the whole world. So that's it then. So yeah, so thank you very much for listening to me today and giving me the chance to talk to you.
Okay, Jan, thank you very much for this presentation. What I found interesting, I put it in different wording, is the proof of the pudding is the eating it. So with the PPI process, in the end, what is important for you is that, of course, you see that our customers, the contracting authorities, the councils, who are really committed to do the purchase, and gives you the possibility to team up with them and to deliver these kind of solutions to them. And as a result of that, and hopefully that's going to work for you in the second phase of the PPI, because you're still in the process, as I've understood it. Yes. But the good thing that you're feeling confident about it, and hopefully you will get a success on that, and also as a starting point, as a stepping stone for other deliveries to other contracting authorities, not only in Ireland but perhaps also on the continent. Who knows?
Yes, it would be great if this were extended to, for example, if Dublin could collaborate with, I don't know, Lisbon and Stockholm or Amsterdam, whatever, a few different cities. That would be fantastic, especially for companies in smaller countries where would be an easy stepping stone to do that. But yes, that is correct. The prize at the end is a bigger deployment. So you're less reluctant to invest in the product. If you know that there's something at the end. So it's clear that but it's working because everybody's in the same position. Obviously, Dublin City Council, Water Safety Yard, everybody, ourselves, we all want this to work. So it's really good.
A last question from my side, because until now you have mostly been engaged in the business-to-business environment, also with this kind of developments, and the business-to-government is completely different.
Yes.
Do you see that if assuming that it goes well for you, that it has a clear benefit for you as a me to engage with a contracting authority instead of engaging with a company, or is that similar, or are there differences between them? Well, you already said something about it.
Yeah, no. As I say, we never even considered public contracts before the SBIR, before the PCP process. But now there's no mystery anymore. So now, for sure, we would, if the right contract comes up, there's nothing to stop us to do that. So, we just never. It wasn't on our radar at all until this came along. And so I think the whole PCP PPI process, what it does is, from our point, I think if I were looking at it from the city point of view or the local authority point of view, I think it's bringing many more innovative type companies into the net of potential suppliers, and it's opening another avenue for us as well that we would not have considered before, just because it's accessible. The mystery is gone.
Exactly.
So, we certainly will consider it in the future. Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. Now we have time to go to the Q&A sessions. One moment, please. Let me see what the questions are. There was a question that I think will be addressed by Nicola. Will the contracts for supply of ring buoys for the other 90 councils be awarded by mini competition? I think you already stated that, Nicola, but perhaps you can say something about it. Sorry, I have to unmute you. Yes.
Yes, it'll be by mini competition. So each local authority will just do out a scope out document of what their requirements are, and we'll issue it then to the 4 companies, and whoever comes back with the best quotation under what we did learn as well when we looked at the Irish context was that the criteria that you use for the framework agreement can be adjusted slightly. The percentage scale can be adjusted when it comes to the mini competition process, which was something that we weren't aware of beforehand. We thought we had to stick exactly to the same criteria with the same value, where in the mini competition, each local authority also has the option to maybe put one of the criteria at a higher value than some of the other criteria.
Yeah. So I think that one of the lessons learned was by teaming up with EAFIP. You had experience from outside Ireland, to put it like that.
Yes, I think a lot of the process had been done by the Netherlands before, and so that's where a lot of the learning came from.
Yes. Exactly, and I think that what we can learn from you is the fact that as a city of Dublin is that you have seen, we already discussed it as a complete program. You have a complete procurement strategy, which innovation procurement plays a vital part of. And you already saying that it's not only innovation procurement. It's not a holy grail as such. It is just one of the pillars that you now have, and that you need to implement in a proper way, an adequate way, of course. But I think that as a result, this is also what we would like to bring across to contracting authorities in Europe. So procurement gives you a lot of flexibility. The toolbox itself is perhaps bigger than you thought about it. Of course, we had a discussion on the framework agreements and how to do that, and that's part of the standard procurement arrangements. With innovation procurement, with the PCP schemes, you see that you create a lot of flexibility, you create another additional instruments in your toolbox that you have. And perhaps what's even more important is that you have the possibility to engage with the technology vendors and suppliers in a complete different way. Also targeting, as we call it, unusual suspects. Because as was explained by Karen, is that that just before that they didn't even care about engaging with contracting authorities, and now through the schemes of innovation procurement, they were aware of the possibilities that they could have in engaging with City of Dublin. I think that's very important. So also from that perspective, it gives you as a contracting authority new possibilities to engage with new unusual suspects, if I might call it like that, and which are going to increase competition in order and in the end to increase the value for the public services, because in the end it's about taxpayers' money that we are spending.
Yeah, and I think I suppose just to talk about the PCP process again just for a minute, while it wasn't successful, as Kira mentioned, in procuring the solution at the end, we did find a way to reuse the process within the council, where we weren't actually looking to procure a solution. We just wanted to trial and test something to see did it work, whether it would improve on-street waste within the city. And we're going through that process at the moment. So it's really important, I think, to just identify the challenge and then identify the right procurement process for each challenge.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that's one of the takeaways that we have. Well, thank you for that, Nicola. I think there's no other questions in the chat for now. No, then I will thank you for your contribution, and we go to the closure of our session. But before that, I also, if possible, we would like to give you the possibility to engage in the last poll of today. And that is about what kind of assistance would you expect that you would receive from through us through the EAFIP initiative. And again, you have 90 seconds to look into it and give you answers, starting now. So what we have tried to do in the poll is that we have addressed several elements about the needs, about prior analysis, business case, open market consultation, the procurement strategy, and of course about the drafting tender documents and more the legal aspects. So it will be interesting to see how you think, what kind of needs you have that we can fulfill. And coming back to one of my remarks regarding the proof of the pudding is eating it, I think that what we have seen today, also with the examples of Lithuania and also with WBL, is that contracting authorities are committed to use the innovation procurement instrument in the most effective and efficient way, thinking not only to play with the instrument as such, because we have had that some years ago, but really committed to use it for their benefit. And that will have an effect that companies, whether they are startups or SMEs or big names, big companies, can see that there's a real commitment from the side of the contracting authorities, and it's wise for them to engage and to invest in that relationship. Because in the end, it is about trust, mutual trust between the demand and supply side. And if you just play around with instruments just as such, then it wouldn't create any added value for the future for to be engaged in this kind of schemes for companies. Okay, so interesting. Defining the procurement strategy is 30%, open market consultation 26%. Interesting. Well, thank you for that feedback. For now, let's start with finish with our presentations. Just some takeaways. You can read them. We already have addressed them during the presentations. You can also look into the EAFIP website and download the toolkit with all kind of examples, for example, of WBL. and you can learn from it. And as stated by Annabelle, the toolkit is for free, so you can download for free. You can look at the experiences and you can look at the webinars. Of course, there are also not only do's, also don'ts, and I think that's clear. If there's no need, just do not start with any procurement, and do not start with innovation procurement. And just playing for the fun with it, please don't do that anymore. Just stick on the real stuff and be committed in order to use the instrument in the right way, because that creates a trust with the market. So these are the don'ts, just as a takeaways. You can read them and you can look them up. And for the end, yes, keep calm and change the game. I think that is the takeaway from this webinar. It is exciting. It is a game changer. It can be challenging, but it gives you new opportunities as contracting authorities to engage in the interaction with the market. And it also provides possibilities for, of course, for SMEs and suppliers and tech vendors to see what they can do to improve the public needs. I think that's very important, because it takes two to tango, and it's not only what we want from a demand side, but also from the supply side. And if we cross the bridge in order to understand what we need and what we can do and how we can help each other, well, then we're almost there. Put it like that. So we're now going to the closure. There's another series of webinars and roundtables. The next session is on the 29th of June. And on October the 5th, we have another webinar on innovation procurement, how to strengthen European autonomy and resilience. And perhaps a different topic, but it's a very interesting topic to deal with. For free, you can apply for the free assistance. So due date for the first call is 25th of June. You can go to the EAFIP website and download the material and fill in the survey, and then we will look into it and select the first cases where we're going to support on innovation procurement. And that was it for my side, but not for thanking all the viewers for the participation in this long 4 hours, or well, 3.5 hours of webinar. Thank you for that. I would like to thank all the speakers. I would like to thank Mrs. Bos, and of course, not to forget the support team of Marleen, Matti, Anna, Annabelle. You all have been great, and without you, it was not going to happen. So thank you very much. Really appreciated all your support and your attendance. And see you next time on another webinar on another assistance. Thank you for that. Bye-bye.